I'm alive. Friends, don't get sick. Get your boosters, get your vaccines, get everything that you can, because I was a silly Billy. I dragged my feet. I didn't get my COVID booster. I didn't get my flu shot. And like, first week of December, I got hit with one heck of a sickness. I am only now starting to recover, as you can tell with my voice. So, that all being said, I just wanted to do a quick little video. I've got some records to show you guys. But before I do that, I wanted to kind of just give a little bit of a lowdown and kind of a forecasting of where we're going to go within the next couple of weeks, because we've got a lot of year-end videos to be putting up, and I'm really, really excited to finally sit down and do those. I just have to pace myself, so I hope that we can both be patient. I need to learn how to be patient because I kept trying and trying and trying, and it just wasn't happening. So I think this year I'm going to do things a little bit differently in terms of how I'm going to structure and how I'm going to release my year-end videos. This year I'm going to put out probably over the weekend, because this one hopefully will be coming out on Friday. Over the weekend I'm going to be doing my top epics. A lot of my contemporaries, Nathan on Shuffle and Ian over on Rhyme Signature, as well as Scott from the Prog Corner, they all did their year-end epics, like their favorite songs that are beyond the 15-minute mark within the prog sphere. So I'm going to be doing that as well. It's the first year that I'm going to be doing that, and I'm pretty excited about talking about my favorite epics from the year. And then next week, starting on Monday, I've got 3 best of videos. So the first one's going to be my favorite pop records, because I've been listening to a lot of pop this year. Wednesday, on Christmas Day, will be the metal and prog records. And then on Friday, I'm going to be putting out kind of like my big conglomerated list of about 50 albums that I've been listening to this year. I'm basically just taking my pop top 20 and my prog and metal top 30, smushing them together for 50 albums, so that this way you guys will know which are my official, top 10 records of the year. Because I didn't want to just do a top 10 or a top 15 with a lot of pop in there if you're not interested in that. Like, if you only want to hear my take on prog and metal, which is why most people are here, then I don't want you to sit through me listing off 20 pop records. But I also know that people are really interested in my takes within the pop sphere, so that's why I figured I'm going to be doing like 2 separate lists that are kind of individually and independent of one another. So if you're interested in just the pop, interested in just the metal and prog, you've got those lists. And then on Friday, it will be like the full big shebang. And then after that, the final week of 2024, first week of 2025, I'm going to be doing something that I do every single year, which is my, the surprises, my disappointments, and the forgettable records of the year. But I'm also going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about my favorite books that I've read this year, as well as my favorite movies that I've watched this year. Now, the movies will be movies that were released in 2024. That's, because I watch a lot of movies. Books, I read a lot of books, and I'm not limiting that to just releases from 2024. It will be just records or books that I've read within the 2024 sphere. I know that I'm in a different spot just because, our Christmas tree is literally where my camera would normally be. And I need to figure out the balance within the lighting. So the future, I'm not going to have this giant glare because, the sun's basically just shining off the floor. So I'm going to fix that a little bit for the future episodes. Anyway, I've been talking now for about 4.5 minutes. Let's talk about those records that I've received basically from like late summer to about now. Now, for those of you in Canada, our postal service has been under strike for the longest time, and stick it to the man, get your demands, because the postal workers, they need more things. It's a trying time. So as of this recording, I believe they've just come off of strike. So there's a lot of records that I still have in transit. And honestly, they could have taken as much time and I wouldn't have minded at all. I'm very patient. I can wait. Don't worry. You guys get what you need. But I still have quite a few that came in through other means, either through the physical aspects or people gifting me them, or, you know, whatever. So the rest of this video is going to be a little bit of a record haul. These records that I've received basically from like mid-September onward. And the first one I want to talk about is actually behind me. And that is something that I got as a wedding present from a stepbrother, or not a stepbrother, brother-in-law, who's a stepbrother to my wife, or I guess half-brother. It's fun. Anyway, he got me, and I'll put all the records over here, the big box set from Peter Gabriel. So this one has the CDs, there's a Blu-ray of both mixes kind of shoved together, and then all of the records themselves. So I was very lucky because I didn't know how I was going to get this record. I knew that I was eventually, but I didn't know if I was just going to get like the bright side or the dark side or however I was going to get it. So, you know, there's the big monster box that it's in, and then it opens itself up, and it's got a really nice book that kind of, you know, there's the main record, you know, visual itself. You've got the real world classic, you know, little rainbow thing there. A beautiful glossy book that goes through each of the songs, and it has all the artwork from each of the songs when they were being kind of dripped during the you know, when he was releasing it last year. And then you've got the bright side, the dark side, and then the inside mix, and that one's only a Blu-ray, which I really appreciate and I really like. And then you've got like a poster, and then each of the records, there's 4 records, and each one kind of makes up, you know, a quarter of an eye. I'm not going to try to put all 4 of them out because I think that's going to be ridiculous, but, you know, there you go. So yeah, absolutely great. He has now become my favorite brother. And yeah, that's the Peter Gabriel I.O. box set. Again, wedding present from my brother-in-law. All right, let's get into the actual records themselves. First up, y'all know that this was coming. This is Rug Island from Bluey. The main composer here, I want to shout him out because he does a beautiful, beautiful thing. I believe it's pronounced Joff, Joff, Joff Bush. Fantastic record. I have the other 2 Bluey soundtracks, and Joff does a really good way of like distilling the innocence and playfulness of being a kid while sprinkling every once in a while the kind of fear that kids have, a little bit of uncertainty, and like really distills whatever the main theme of that particular episode that they're doing. So you have Rug Island is kind of, you know, splayed between 3 tracks throughout the runtime. Obstacle Course, Octopus, Wild Girls, Escape, Onesies. If you've seen that episode, try not to cry during it. I do want to point out that Rug Island, the actual episode itself, I feel like it kind of gets lost in the shuffle because it's between 2 really, like, it follows up 2 amazing episodes of Daddy Drop Off, which makes me weep every time, and of course Sleepy Time, which waterfalls every single time I watch that episode. So, yeah, absolutely great. I also love that all 3 records now with this have kind of like a continuation of the Healer family's front porch. And this is kind of like looking in, and there's old Bandit kind of doing the, you know, the vacuuming. So the other one has Bingo sitting and listening to music. First one is just Bluey sitting out, looking out. So I'm pretty sure Chili will be in the final one when they release a 4th one, because they would be silly not to release a 4th record. Okay. As I mentioned at the top of this episode, you know what? I'm going to actually just change the lighting a little bit because it's getting a little bit distracting. There we go. That's much better. Now you don't have this big glare on me. If I didn't record for 10 minutes, I probably would redo it, but I don't have the energy to do that right now. So I'm glad we figured this all out. Okay. As I was saying, I was listening to a lot of pop this past year. And so I have a lot of pop records. And during my wife and my's little, we call it mini moon, because we couldn't afford an actual honeymoon. So we just went to my dad's house, which is like a cottage out in Muskoka here in Ontario. And so while we were there, we did a road trip into the city and hit up a record store, and I bought a bunch of records, and which means I finally was able to get one of my favorite records from last year that I was diving deep into this year. I think we all know it. The Rise and Fall of a Midwestern Princess, or Midwestern Queen, I believe it is. Yeah, Chapel Rowan, the Queen, you know, absolutely gorgeous. I'm a little saddened that they have it across 3 records and that the 4th side is just blank. But I get it, you know? Pop doesn't think a lot about how to put it onto physical format. But the music found on here is absolutely spectacular. I'm so glad that Chapel is, you know, coming into her own. Another one that I picked up during that time, here we go, is one that I've really fallen in love with. I believe it's Biba Booty, I think is how you pronounce it. Biba Doobie. This is How Tomorrow Moves. Great record. I love how indie it sounds, how intimate. It has a little bit more of like a 90s singer-songwriter. You know, a little bit of like Sheryl Crow, you know, a little bit of like Sixpence None the Richer, that kind of a style. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Very soothing, very wholesome. And yeah, just some good vibes. I really, really enjoyed her music this year. And the final one that I picked up, because I picked up 3, at least within the cottage, was the Ariana Grande. Now, I'm not a big fan of Ariana Grande, but this is named after one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Eternal Sunshine. A little bit more R&B than I'm usually, you know, excited about. A little bit more hip-hop infused, but Ariana's vocal works are fantastic. And, I mean, this is the only record that I own from her so far, and I know that I could have probably done better. But, honestly, I really enjoyed this one. I've also been listening to a lot of Ariana just because she's playing Glinda in Wicked, and, yeah. So, this was a really good time, and I've been really enjoying that one. All right, let's move on to some other big pop records that I've got. I ordered this one a long, long time ago. I pre-ordered this one, and it didn't come in until like halfway through like October. So yeah, short and sweet from Sabrina Carpenter. One of my favorite records of this year. Probably one of my most played records of this year, and it is exactly as the title says. It's short, it's sweet. Lots of songs about sex. This girl, she be horny, and that's, you know, if the girl can get it. So if she can get it as much as she can. And I love some of the, you know, images that she's put on here. It's a little bit, you know, I don't want to say juvenile, but it's definitely a young adult coming into her own and owning her sexuality. And I really enjoyed that. So yeah, short and sweet from good old Sabrina Carpenter. You gotta love it. I was listening to a lot of Sabrina Carpenter this year, even before this album dropped, just to get ready for it. And I fell in love with her first record, as well as Emails I Can't Send, I believe is what it was. Her middle records didn't really do anything for me, but I really liked her first record and the one that she put out before that. One that was recommended by a viewer, because I've been doing so much pop music lately, is Ali X, and this is Girl With No Face. If you're looking for like pop music from the 80s, especially more of that like experimental pop music, this is right up the alley in that sense. Alley. But it's like got the drum fills and the beats of the 80s. It's got the synthesizers of the 80s. Like if you had told me this came out in like 1986, I would 100% believe you. But the production is much more modern. It's a lot more crisp and a lot like, I love how deep a lot of this track sounds. And a lot of these tracks are so much fun. Like I think my favorite track on here is Off With Her Tits, which is just, you know, a lot of fun. Basically saying like, I'm not just a big object. I'm more than that. Like, and if that's all you see me and you just see me for my tits, well, I'm going to get rid of them. So great record. Love the artistic flair on this one. All right, moving on. Got to talk about my girl, Remy Wolf. Again, I've been loving this one. This is Big Ideas. Yeah, once again, a little bit more on the hip hop, a little bit more on the R&B in terms of the pop side of things. But I love her voice and I love her compositions within a lot of the songs on here. Cinderella, the opening track, and Soup, the follow-up, like the first 2 tracks on here, absolutely banging. I love how like in your face this one feels without it being aggressive, without it being bombastic. But it's a really good time. You know, if I want something that has a little bit more of a pickup, a little bit more of a fun time, I'll put this one on. So yeah, Remy Wolf with her Big Ideas was a great one. These last 2 were ones that came in late for me. And I was kind of hoping that I could find, there was another one from Submarine from the Marias that I absolutely, absolutely loved. I had it in my Amazon cart for the longest time. And I was just waiting for like some of the Black Friday sales. And once that hit, it was no longer available. And I'm kicking myself because I really love that record. But instead, I also got these 2. First one, I want to talk about Lizzy McAlpine. Really love this one. This is her older record. And it's just a good vibe. It's got a little bit more of like what I was hoping for, like a Taylor Swift, especially like where I was hoping Taylor Swift would go after Folklore and Evermore. I'm not saying that I don't like Midnights or the Tortured Poets Department. I just wish that she was going more in this vein. It's got a little bit more of that homegrown feel, a little bit less production work behind it, a little bit more intimate, but just as artistic and just as exciting. So I've really been liking this one. And if you're in the same boat where Tortured Poets Department really let you cold, pick up this one. And I think you'll really, really enjoy it. And she has just a fantastic, voice and harmonies. Okay, second last one in terms of my pop, or I guess you could say it's actually the last one in my pop. This is Luminal Space from MXM Tune, or it might be MMX Tune. Really love this one. This one has a lot of the same feels that I really like. It's a little bit subtle, a little bit more, atmospheric in that sense. I really love the packaging of this one. It actually comes with like a little flight ticket here and a little booklet as well underneath there that has all the lyrics on here. This is how you package a record. I really love it. The back is just kind of like a regular old back. But yeah, it really does have that kind of luminal space feel to it. So really like this one. Lots of good vibes, lots of good times on it. Okay, moving along. We're moving a little bit away from the pop records now, but I gotta shout out my girl Stella Cole. I'm actually wearing her t-shirt. I didn't realize that. It's just a very comfortable t-shirt when I'm not feeling so great. Self-titled debut, full-length album. Stella Cole, I actually found her, I believe, on TikTok. Just doing a lot of like the 1930s, 40s singer jazz bar, a little bit on the crooner side. Think of like the Ella Fitzgerald or Judy Garland or, that kind of like classic singer style on here. This one's great. It's got a combination of originals and covers on it. And it's just an absolute delight. If you're looking for that kind of like jazz bar throwback style, with a little bit less of the, sexism and misogyny that can come with this kind of territory, I really recommend checking out Stella Cole. I have her Christmas record. It's coming. It's just in transit. It's in the mail. Again, take as long as you need. But I've really been enjoying her self-titled debut record. And I'm really looking forward to what Stella is going to do because she's really getting a lot of notoriety, which I'm really, really excited for. And I'm really hoping that kind of kicks off this next wave of like these kind of classical singers that I really enjoy. All right, let's talk about one of my favorite records that dropped this year. Talking about Lemon Twigs, A Dream Is All We Know. Absolutely blew me away. I know a lot of my contemporaries, Matt O'Leary, loves Lemon Twigs, and I've always kind of been hit and miss about them. Their last record, Everything Harmony, was the first one that I actually enjoyed. All the other ones was fine, but didn't quite hit me as much. This one, though, a perfect blend of like an ELO, Beatles, Beach Boys, kind of that throwback early rock and roll kind of stylings of like the Brit Invasion kind of an idea. It's got that psychedelic singer-songwriter aspect to it, without it being a complete carbon copy. Like I'm looking at bands like Greta Van Fleet, that's basically just a copy and paste of what's been going on in the past. But this one feels like its own thing, So really enjoyed this one. This one's definitely making it on my, my year-end list. And it's just a good vibe. This was an album that I've been listening to a lot this year because I've been needing some good vibes. One that's not necessarily a good vibe, but is very, very good, is Jordy Griep. Now, I keep trying to get around to reviewing this album in full. I think that review in full is probably going to happen either in a year-end, 20 album reviews really quickly, or it's going to be a full-length album review in the new year. But yeah, Jordy Griep from the Black Midi. Love the Black Midi. This one's a little bit more accessible, if I'm being honest. It's got a little bit more of a Brazilian jazz kind of a style to it without it being that really aggressive, very bombastic stuff that we would get with the Black Midi. I feel like it's a little bit more restrained, but the lyrics are absolutely insane. Absolutely redonkulous, like sexual deviancy. It's almost like there's all the lyrics on the gatefold there. It's almost like stream of thought where it's like no filter, all whatever you get. So lyrics, really insane, but the music itself is really nice as well. So yeah, new sound from Jordy Griep. If he continues to do this and kind of keeps the Black Midi at an arm's length and kind of ends it there, we've got 3 perfect records from the Black Midi and 1 stellar record starting his solo career. All right, an album I actually haven't taken out of the packaging yet. I found this at a small record store in Orillia, Ontario, and it is The Worm from Happy Meals Limited, or HTML, I believe it is. HMLTD. I just know them as Happy Meals Limited. Great record that came out last year. Really insane, really crazy. And once I'm starting to feel better, I'll actually open this bad boy up and put it on the turntable, because that's one of the things that I really love to do when I get a new record, immediately is put it onto the turntable. Haven't been able to do that yet, just because I got this at Canadian Thanksgiving, and then it was just an absolute whirlwind to the end of the year. So anyway, I reviewed this last year. It's a lot of fun, really crazy, really insane stuff. And yeah, I was shocked to find it at like a kind of an independent record store, because I didn't think these guys were that big over here in Canada. One that I absolutely love from this year, or actually no, this was from last year, and I actually got it last year. I ordered it last year and it finally came in. This is Deadly Carnage with their Endless Blue. Very great, kind of like the black gaze, post-rock kind of infuser thing that like, Deaf Heaven is kind of doing. But I like how much more atmospheric this is. Like if you look at this album cover and you hear the band's name is Deadly Carnage, you kind of are in like, you're thinking, oh boy, this is going to be like a balls to the wall insane record. Really, this album is super, super chill. I really like the atmosphere. I really like the ambiance that we have on this. I reviewed this last year. It was one of my favorite records from last year, and I had to pick it up in physical format once I found out that they were releasing it in record. Because it won my Album of the Year award last year, I had to have it in physical format, and once they said that they were releasing it in vinyl, I had to run to pre-order this one. It finally came in. Jiminy from Bear Ghost. Sounds just as good on vinyl as it does electronically. This was my favorite record of the year last year. This was the last record that I've given a masterpiece status to. I haven't actually given any records this year a masterpiece. So, yeah, this one is my last masterpiece rated record. If you haven't listened to it already, go ahead and do so. It is fantastic. This one was a little bit of an impulse buy. Over the summer, I was in a really big Phil Collins mood, and I saw that he had released this finally on record. This is Phil Collins' Serious Hits Live. This one, I believe, came out just after his But Seriously. It was released in 2019 in this, but I believe originally recorded in 1990. And it's got all of the staples, all of my favorite Phil Collins tracks on here. Take Me Home finishes it all off, which is one of my, if not my favorite track from Phil Collins. But yeah, it's just got all of his other stuff. Something Happened on the Way to Heaven, Don't Lose My Number, In the Air Tonight, Do You Remember? Susudio. It's got all the big hits. And there's the, little gatefold with all the pictures in it. And there's the carousel stage so you can see it more proper. All right, coming into the last handful of records here, let's talk about a record that, of course, I had to pick up. Whether or not this album was going to be good, I had to have it in physical format because I have all the other records from this band. And that is Opeth's album, their latest one that they released earlier in November, The Last Will and Testament. And it's okay. It's okay. I've grown to enjoy this one a little bit more than the initial reaction that I had to this record. Still not as good as I was hoping it was going to be after coming off of the heels of In Caudam Venenum, which is one of my favorite, kind of this post growls. The growls are back on here. It's up to you whether or not they work. I think they work all right. We're definitely, streets away from it ever being like Orchid or My Arms Your Hearst or Blackwater Park growls. But I feel like the growls used on here are quite nice. Ian Anderson's vocal, or I guess narrative style, and his flute playing pairs very well with the story. Not necessarily my favorite record from them. I wouldn't say that it's a huge return to form that I feel like a lot of people are saying that it is. But I think that it's better than some of the haters of this record would have you believe. Okay. Coming into the last non-Christmas record, because I wanted to end off with the 3 Christmas records that I picked up this year. Let's talk about Right Here, Right Now from Ghost. This was another one that I had pre-ordered. Took a while to come in. And yeah, I'm a little saddened that because my wife and I actually got to see this in theaters. We had to drive like an hour and a half in order to see it because it wasn't playing in our city. But we're both huge Ghost fans. So we drove to the bigger city that's, up here in the north to see it. And we're kind of saddened that not all the tracks made it to the soundtrack. There's a number of classic tracks on the soundtrack that are gone. And there's a part of me that's like, okay, I get it, because a lot of those tracks were on Ceremony and Devotion, which was their last live album. But I really liked what they did with it, with a little bit of a bigger production, because the production side of things on the Ceremony and Devotion aren't necessarily the best. Tobias's vocals are kind of lost in the shuffle. They are crystal clear on this one. But you still get some of the big hits, Square Hammer being the final track on here. Miasma, really love how they present it here. I also really like how they do it in the movie. And some of the tracks that I actually enjoy from their last album, Kazarion, Spillways, Call Me Little Sunshine, and Watcher in the Skies. I'm kind of saddened that they had decided to put on 20s, but I've kind of grown to accept it and enjoy it. I will say that if you have Ghosts, the chamber version, I wish they did more with the Goulettes, which was just a cello, a violin, and a vocalist. If they had done Life Eternal with that setup, I would have wept. I wish they had done like maybe 2 more songs instead of just If You Have Ghosts. But what are you going to do? Also, the new single that's on here, The Future is a Foreign Land, 10 out of 10 banger. Absolutely great. A great throwback to like a 60s kind of psychedelic rock that we would get with like a Deep Purple or, that psychedelic Beatles from like, Sgt. Pepper's or the Magical Mystery Tour. All right, let's talk about Christmas. I love Christmas. It's my favorite time of the year. I am so saddened that life events have happened in my life that have made me not be able to really participate within Christmas, as well as being sick to make me miss out on a lot of my favorite Christmas traditions. But I've been watching a lot of Christmas movies and listening to a lot of Christmas albums. And I finally picked up the last of the trio of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I've got the Lost Christmas Eve. This is the Lost Christmas Eve. Sorry, Christmas Eve and Other Stories, as well as Christmas Attic. Already had those 2. This is the final one of the Lost Christmas Eve. This is my second favorite from them. I think Christmas Eve and Other Stories is my favorite of theirs. Then this one, then the Christmas Attic. But there's still some banging tracks on here. Wizards in Winter, probably a standout. This was one of the first tracks I heard from the band, and I think a lot of people got into the band because of that. Christmas Canon Rock, I think everybody loves that one. I really love the 1-2 punch of Christmas Jazz and Christmas Jam. I really like that, as well as the Wish Lits, rather than the Wish List, the Toy Shop Madness. There's just a lot of really, really good bangers on this one. And so there's the classic, that big machismo, very, sword and sorcery kind of graphics and whatnot. It's like from an 80s or 90s, sword and sorcery movie or book. So yeah, Lost Christmas Eve completes my trilogy. I really hope and I pray that they put out the other... I don't necessarily care about the Letters from the Labyrinth, but if they put out the Beethoven's Last Night, which is my favorite record from Trans-Siberian Orchestra, as well as the Night Castle on vinyl, that would be fantastic. That would just be fantastic. Okay, final 2 records. Let's talk about Leslie Odum Jr. Aaron Burr, sir. I am kind of sad that he is known mainly for his work with Hamilton as Aaron Burr. But if you aren't familiar with Leslie Odum Jr., his Christmas albums and his other albums are just fantastic. So this is the big one that he put out. This is just, I believe, called the Christmas album. But he also has a smaller one that I enjoy just as much, which is Simply Christmas. It's a little shorter, a little bit more, straightforward. But But I really like how homegrown and organic this one sounds. You know, this one feels a little bit more like what Louis Armstrong was doing with, you know, the Christmas Yule, or a Wishes You a like a jazzy Yule, or the Ella Fitzgerald, like the Christmas Dreaming kind of an album. It just feels like they were having fun with it. Whereas this one feels a little bit more corporatized, if I'm being honest. It's a little bit more polished. It's a little bit more, you know, you can see the people behind Leslie. Not necessarily Leslie himself, but definitely, you know, the people behind him seeing the money in their eyes of being like, oh, cha-ching, cha-ching. So a little bit more production's being put on it, and it just kind of loses that little bit of, you know, homegrownness. But it's a little bit longer, and it's got a little bit, you know, the tracks on here are a lot more fun. But yeah, there's just something so warm about this one that I really enjoy. So Simply Christmas and the Christmas album from Leslie Odum Jr. Absolutely great records. And those are it. That's it for my record haul this time around. I know that this video is over a half hour long, and I apologize for that. But, you know, I wanted to get that kind of cleared out. And I also just wanted to test the waterways to see how my voice was doing before I dove in to my year-end lists that I'm going to be doing now. So look out for all those videos in the coming weeks. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you guys are feeling well. I hope 2024 has treated you very kindly, and I hope that 2025 will see you in brighter shores. But I'm going to leave you guys for today. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, Notes out.